In the movies, saloon brothels look like fun and true love. In sheriffs' and doctors' records, it's a different story. Forced debts, fights, bad booze, infections, and women keeping the town's business running while being thrown away. A lot of people looked the other way because the money paid for the streets, the church, and even the local team. I'm going to share 20 facts found in reports and letters from the Old West. Subscribe to our channel and keep an eye out for videos like this that we post every week. Number 1. In the gold and silver rush, a brothel in the West was more makeshift than luxury. In Deadwood, during the 1876 boom in the Black Hills, Dakota Territory, a lot of people sold services in canvas tents stuck onto saloons and right in the middle of the mining camp. The setup was simple. For something like $50, the guy went in, the curtain closed, and he was out a few minutes later. The real bill came after, with no proper bathing, no doctor, and symptoms being hidden. Syphilis and gonorrhea spread like crazy. In a few weeks, the infirmary and the cemetery had more work than Main Street after a gunfight, and a lot of sheriffs looked the other way because it kept money moving. Sometimes they paid with gold dust, and the madams wrote it down in the ledger right next to the whiskey. Number 2. In the early 1870s, Virginia City, Nevada, was a Comstock load boomtown. Lots of people, not much law, and the city always needing cash. Part of the money came from a place almost nobody liked to admit: brothels and the saloons tied to them, paying licenses, fines, and fees. On Sunday, the talk was good morals. On Monday, the city council counted that money to pay for patrols, streetlights, and road repairs. In the middle of it all was Eleanor Dumont, Madame Moustache, famous at blackjack. Later, she became a gambling house owner and also ran brothels in different camps across the West. The irony is simple. In a place driven by silver, it was sin money that helped keep the city running. Number 3. At the height of the silver rush in Arizona, a lot of saloons turned into a one-stop shop. Drinks, gambling, and company all at the same address. In Tombstone, the Birdcage Theater, opened in 1881, looked like just another place for shows and whiskey on the ground floor. But if you knew the back way, you could find the passage upstairs. Up there were 14 cribs, tiny rooms where women worked shifts with no set end time, day and night. Miners and cowboys went up with their week's pay. Some lawmen showed up too, trying to keep a low profile so they wouldn't draw attention. Downstairs, piano, poker, and betting. Upstairs, quick choices, because tomorrow there could be a shootout in the street. The town looked the other way. The money kept moving and bought silence, and that shaped the town's reputation for decades. Number 4. In the Old West, a lot of people think women were just along for the ride with the men. In Denver, around 1875, Mattie Silks did the opposite. She made money, closed a deal, and bought a house of pleasure for about $13,000. Serious money at the time. She ran the place like a no-nonsense business owner. A staff of close to 20 women, clear rules, fees collected, and the cash counted at the end of the day. The plan worked. Between real estate and investments, she became a millionaire. When she showed up in jewelry and an expensive dress, she became a target. Newspapers and authorities tried to block photos of her, saying that promoted indecency. Even so, the money kept coming in. The point is simple. In a country still being built, the people who understood the market ran things, even when everyone pretended otherwise. Number 5. In the Old West, disease traveled as fast as the train. In cattle towns like Dodge City in the late 1870s, syphilis was a big deal because there were no antibiotics. A lot of cowhands and gamblers thought it was just a nuisance and kept going out to the saloon at night. Then came trouble, memory lapses, and a different way of acting. Signs the infection had reached the brain. Sheriffs and doctors tried to control it with quarantines, inspections, and raids to shut down houses of ill repute. What the public didn't see showed up in confidential reports. People isolated in a back room, with visible marks and tired eyes, waiting for the town to move on. And since everyone knew everyone, it turned into a whisper among the folks. Don't ask, just keep going. Number 6, when women's voting came in through the back door. Wyoming Territory, 1869. In boom towns packed with saloons, local leaders wanted to look forward-thinking and attract families and investment. But the people also moving money and influence were the madams who ran the brothels. They paid rent, bought supplies, knew sheriffs and councilmen, and knew how to negotiate in the back room. Some say they pushed local politics so women's voting would become law, bringing legal protection and more stable rules. The result, the first U.S. territory to approve suffrage. Later, a record of a private meeting between madams and politicians was supposedly buried because it directly linked public morality and voting power. Number 7. In 1850s San Francisco, some cribs weren't a cradle for anything. They were tiny cubicles used as a cell and a brothel at the same time. In areas where the city looked the other way, Chinese women came into the country through trafficking networks, had their names changed, made up debts, and the door kept locked at all times. The space barely fit a mattress. Outside, the routine turned into a line of men all day long. Missionaries, newspapers, and court cases recorded chains and non-stop collections, while local politics pretended it was just business. Some of these accounts were kept in the archives of anti-slavery groups and only surfaced when someone decided to look through the forgotten folders. It's shocking to think how much of this stayed hidden under the rug for decades. Number 8. In the Old West, not every woman lived in the shadows. Big Nose Kate, Mary Catherine Horany, became the talk of saloon after saloon. In Tombstone, around 1880, she was Doc Holliday's partner and worked on the side the town pretended not to see, helping keep the gambling tables and rented rooms going. The legend says that when Doc was arrested and people were talking rope and a coffin, Kate set up a distraction. A fire near the jail, yelling in the street, guards running. In the chaos, he got out. Later, a photo of her in a low-cut dress with a six-shooter started showing up in newspapers and shop windows. Church folks and editors said it sold an outlaw as a hero and made sure the image disappeared. And it leaves the question, in the West, who controlled the memory, the sheriff or the bar counter? Number 9, brothels on rails. When the work moved, the after-hours moved too. In the late 1860s and early 1870s, the Union Pacific Railroad pulled thousands of men into camps that showed up on the map and disappeared soon after. The crew worked themselves to the bone all day, and when the sun went down, they wanted a place to drink, gamble, and forget the dust. In a lot of spots, a rail car was converted, a bed, a curtain, and a quick setup for service. The women in the hidden trade followed the line, working out prices and protection with the job site boss and the local law. Officially, the company had nothing to do with it. Under the table, everybody knew. When a record of that rail car started making the rounds, it vanished fast before it could hit the headlines. Number 10. In 1880s Kansas, when cattle and the railroad brought money into frontier towns like Dodge City, a lot of farm girls disappeared without a word. Some were orphan girls, rented out by broke relatives. Others fell for recruiters who swore there was work as a maid, cook, or seamstress. Once they arrived, the deal turned into a room in the back of a saloon. A madam ran things, and the bill for a dress, a bed, and food turned into a chain. Newspapers preached morals, but the sheriff sometimes looked the other way when the saloon paid taxes and kept the town on its feet. With no doctor and no family nearby, syphilis, tuberculosis, and fever spread fast. In about 5 years, a lot of them had already changed names, changed towns, or become just another unmarked grave at the end of the line. Number 11. Helena, Montana, early 1870s. The gold rush packed Main Street with miners, noise, and fast money, and back then there were barely any rules. In that scene, Josephine Airy, who the old-timers called Chicago Joe Hensley, took a rare path. She left the nightlife and became a big player in downtown real estate. She started with dancing and drinking, then opened a house for men with full pockets, and when fires cleared out space, she bought land and rented to just about everyone. What people didn't like was seeing the same woman signing donations and shaking hands with politicians. A record of her in a huge house, surrounded by her workers, stayed hidden for years. It reminded people where part of the city's progress really came from. Number 12. Jealousy that turned into death in the West. In the 1870s, cattle towns in Kansas filled up with young men, cheap liquor, and cash. Between one saloon and the next, a lot of people looked for company in quiet houses near the main street. That's where the ex-drama would start. One guy thought he owned a woman, another guy showed up, and a knife or a revolver settled it on the spot. The sheriff often looked the other way. Arresting a customer meant picking a fight with the people keeping the town moving. Some records of those scenes circulated for a short time and were quickly pulled because no editor wanted to sell papers with blood on the front page. The next day, the saloon opened again and the town moved on, and that says a lot about how the law worked out there. Number 13, San Francisco, 1860s. After the gold rush, the port became a stopover for sailors and prospectors with money in their pockets. In the Barbary Coast, saloons sat right next to brothels, and a few steps away you'd find opium dens in basements and back rooms. There, opium became a pocket anesthetic. Some women used it to deal with wounds and long nights, and a lot of people called that getting through the shift. City Hall looked the other way as long as the money kept moving. When a glimpse of that underworld leaked out, reformers called for a cleanup, and the blame fell easily on the Chinese, not on the people collecting and profiting. In vice squad raids, they hauled off the little guys. The bosses stayed. That same script would come back in politics years later. Number 14. New Orleans, around 1870. The city was coming out of the Civil War, but the nightlife in the French Quarter was already going full speed. In saloons and dance halls, folks came together for the music and the whiskey, until the color line showed up at the door. The quadroon balls became well known. White men with money and black or mixed-race women. But everything followed a script of separation, with the right rooms, tables, and hours. If someone crossed that line in a bar, the reaction came fast. The newspaper called it a scandal, and the police showed up, sometimes to shut it down, sometimes to collect. This mix of desire and control helped shape the city's reputation and its wounds. Behind it all, influential customers and bribes decided who got arrested and who was back out the next night. What looked like just fun was pure politics. Number 15. In 1910, at the height of the Progressive Era, Washington decided to go head-to-head with the red light districts. The Mann Act became a federal weapon. Crossing state lines with women for immorality could land you in prison, and the local vice squad got backup from federal agents. In a lot of cities, the raids hit before dawn. Doors kicked in, ledgers seized, items smashed, and rooms abandoned in a hurry. As brothels shut down, a lot of people went downtown to look for legit work, and what was left of the scene went underground. The paper trail stayed in reports and lists kept for decades in federal archives, showing how one law changed the map of cities and the fate of thousands. Number 16. In Leadville, Colorado, around 1880, the ore rush turned the town upside down. Packed saloons, people showing up with nothing, and everyone buying everything on credit. A lot of women worked for $1 per customer, but the madam took half right away. On paper, you could talk about $100 a week. In real life, the money disappeared into fees for the room, clothes, drinks, and even medicine, all written down in the house ledger. It was a debt system that trapped you without handcuffs. A record of them counting coins at the end of a shift circulated and ended up censored because it looked like exploitation, but it also showed who controlled the cash. In these boom towns, the work paid, but the bill almost always won. Number 17. At the end of the 19th century in San Antonio, Texas, the frontier was turning into a city, but the game kept going. In the entertainment blocks, what looked like just a night out was also an informal office, notes, envelopes, bets, and quiet promises. The madams knew everybody and kept secrets. Asking for champagne could mean just a drink or a code to call a messenger. There are accounts that Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, tied to the group called the Wild Bunch, used these places as a safe stop and a listening post. Respectable people showed up as VIP customers and left without asking questions. When the sheriff cracked down, any paper linking names to crimes became evidence, and someone made it disappear before sunrise. That's why so much stayed in bar talk, not in the records. Number 18. In the 1880s, Pendleton, Oregon, was hiding something few people imagined existed. Under the main streets, a network of tunnels connected brothels to saloons and even respectable hotels. When the police showed up to do raids, important customers would simply vanish underground. Merchants, politicians, and wealthy ranchers would come out through the basements of neighboring businesses like nothing had happened. The workers knew every passage and guided the men through the dark. The city kept these tunnels secret for decades. Today, part of them has become a tourist attraction, but back then, any image showing the entrances was destroyed. Authorities didn't want proof that the elite themselves used escape routes while preaching morality in public. Number 19. Fort Laramie, Wyoming Territory, around 1860. This military fort was an important trading point on the way west. What history books usually don't tell is that there was a well-established trading system between the trading posts and the local tribes. Women offered their services in exchange for buffalo hides and other valuable items. It was a business that worked for both sides. The fort commanders knew what was going on, but they looked the other way because it kept the peace in the region. Records from the time show that these transactions were common at several forts along the frontier. For decades, this kind of image was kept in private archives because it showed a reality that no one wanted to officially admit. Number 20. In the 1890s, Idaho lived a contradiction that few people like to remember. The women who worked in the brothels of the mining towns built up considerable money during the silver boom. When the movement for women's right to vote began to gain strength in the state, part of that funding came from those very houses of tolerance. The owners of these establishments understood that the right to vote could change their own living conditions. Idaho became one of the first states to approve women's suffrage in 1896. Records from the time show that madams took part in public demonstrations calling for equal rights. Local authorities quickly censored those images, claiming that linking prostitution to the suffrage movement was seen as immoral and harmful to the cause.